The program, applications are taken and funds are distributed on a quarterly basis with $2,500 allotted each quarter to fund grant applications. So for a total of $10,000 a year is budgeted, and that's the way it's been for the last few years. One year the program wasn't budgeted at all for a variety of reasons, and then prior to that it was at the $8,000 a year limit. Our current criteria for the program is funds are distributed based on 4 basic criteria: direct and substantial benefit to the community, provides benefit which will continue for more than a year, applicant is locally based, and provides assistance where there is a health or safety concern. Those are kind of the 4 basic criteria we use on deciding which programs and organizations to fund. In your packet is a copy of the current program and the policies that are associated with that. We also provided a survey of our neighboring communities and what they all have similar type of programs. Mainly Erie, Louisville, Lafayette, and Broomfield were the 4 that we looked at and the programs that they provide. And their programs range anywhere from $12,000 to $42,000 a year that they provide funding for. And
so that's one of the questions that I have, of course, is, we seem to be on the lowest end of our neighborhoods.
Is it something worth considering increasing from 10 to 12, 5 or something, or doing something?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's something definitely we can look at and discuss tonight.
And what's the population in Lafayette compared to us? I think it's quite a lot bigger, right?
I think Lafayette's about 20,000.
Oh, is that all?
Louisville's about 18,000.
Okay.
Broomfield's a little bit larger than that, and Erie, I think, is in the 24,000 range. So we're not too far off as far as those communities go. Their programs fund a variety of things, anywhere from emergency family assistant programs, transportation for elderly or developmentally physically challenged individuals, education, youth leadership, and Broomfield also provides for arts, culture, and science programs. So kind of all over the map. My staff has taken a stab at drafting a new program policy for you to look at and just kind of to help generate discussion tonight for you and help kickstart the discussion. So I'm not going to go through but I wasn't planning on going through the summary of the other communities' programs, and I thought I'd just go into the draft policy that we put together. So the purpose of it kind of takes what we already have in place and expands on what we already have is what we put together. The purpose of the policy is to set a uniform process to fund community organizations for support of different projects and programs that enhance or benefit the community as a whole. Limitations, the funds are limited to community projects and programs. They are mainly set aside for community organizations or nonprofits. General criteria that we set aside for this program are promotion of commerce or industry, celebration of town's cultural heritage, contributions to general public good in areas of education, safety, health, welfare, or recreation activities. Number of people that will participate or benefit from the program, event, or activity, consistency of the applicant's customers, promotional goals with the town's character, values, and service priorities, the applicant's historical participation in association with community projects, events, and continued willingness to participate, community support for or opposition to the proposed project be taken into consideration.
Can I just ask, I didn't follow what that was. I'm not sure.
The support?
The community support for or opposition to the proposed project.
Well, if it's a project that...
It's controversial?
Yes.
That's what it is.
That's kind of what we were thinking there.
So controversial,
right.
Sort of exclude that. Okay.
And
If
these,
the community is split, then it's kind of hard to do.
Oh, yeah. I thought that's what it was, but I
Yeah.
just didn't quite understand that. Okay.
operating and maintenance costs associated with proposed projects. So if it's, an example is if they're building something for the community, there's going to be maintenance costs to the town that we have to take into consideration. Public perception of the association of the town and the proposed project. And some projects could be perceived negatively, I guess, and may, have to be taken into consideration. And then applicants' regard for demonstrated success in environmental stewardship. So those are some criteria that we came up with.
It is different than what we had before.
Yeah.
It's expanded.
Right.
Yeah.
And something else that needs to be talked about, which we didn't include in here, is whether we want to continue to accept applications on a quarterly basis, or if we want to just do at first come, first serve, or if we want to do on an annual basis, one time a year type of thing. So that's all something we can talk about tonight.
I guess
So, are you,
I was just going to wrap up real quick and we
Okay.
can get right into it. Eligibility, recognized community service organizations, typically your nonprofit corporations.
This is new,
Or chartered
Right.
chapters, yeah.
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 They all have to be 501c3s, and they don't
That's
now.
Correct.
Right, okay.
And then there's a list of organizations that wouldn't qualify. And then the process, which is basically when we're going to accept applications, when the funds are going to be distributed, which we still, we have a suggestion here, but I think, I'm not sure the board's convinced that the quarterly basis is working well, so I'd like to get your feedback on what you think about that as well. So that's the draft policy that we put together, and then again, we included the current program that we have in place. That's attached at the end. Good, Brooke?
no, I'm letting him go
Yeah.
first.
So I would
That's
just,
very kind of you.
Hey, Russ, yeah.
Really?
ladies first, all right.
Yes, exactly.
So I think going from a quarter to an annual basis may be a little bit of a stretch. I was wondering if there's like a middle, maybe every 6 months we can,
I think
Look
6
at
months
that.
makes a lot of sense. That's what I was going to argue for.
I actually think annual makes a lot of sense because, I guess I'm opposed to limiting it to 501c3s.
We haven't gotten there yet.
But in terms of any organization, even one who's not a 501c3, knowing what you got to work with on an annual basis affects your annual work plan. So knowing up front allows you to get going on it and achieve it. So I'm for annual.
I guess,
Different cycles in the work, I think the needs arise that you don't know at the beginning of the year. and
that's
that
the,
leads to extra
exactly,
work.
Sorry.
you're completely my thoughts. That's exactly my thought.
We're on the wavelength on this one, yeah.
We might have like a flood event that happens that you don't, how do you know that in January? It might happen in September, I want us to have a little bit of a flexibility.
Twice a year, I think is a
Yeah.
good compromise.
I would agree on that. I'm on the fence on the 501c3 because can anyone get that? How do you?
It's a
take-
process.
It takes five with the feds and
Yeah.
stuff
It's a
like that.
typical process.
Well, there's an or in here, and I didn't
So
understand.
like Troop 278 couldn't do that.
Well, I
Or
think
an
Boy
individual
Scouts
was a really
are.
good project. I don't like the limiting it to 501c3 at all.
I think Boy Scouts are 501c3, so.
They are?
Yeah, I think they are. But I'm not positive about that, but I think they are.
Anybody know?
Are you limiting perhaps others that we might deem
You guys
worthy
know?
to
Yeah, I know.
receive?
Yeah, we are.
I think there's someone from the audience that might know.
No.
I'm not sure.
They have to be nonprofit and recognized by the IRS, and you can look it up in the code.
Yeah, that's the way it's listed in here, but we can change that if you're not comfortable.
No, but there's an or in here, and this is what,
And/or, yeah.
the chartered chapters of state or national lodges or service organizations, so I don't, and,
Like Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts.
well, I'm not sure who they are.
Okay.
because Red Cross would be 501c3. And, anybody you can,
Most of those organizations are going to be
anybody
attached to
you,
a large organization.
anybody you can give money to and take it as a tax deduction is what this is talking about.
Right.
And so I don't know, but I wanted to speak on the time and really the issue that came up during the budget, or really almost every time last year, was it seemed like we'd only get one or two applications from the people in the know, and they would get the money. And it would be repetitive, and that's what was bothering the board. And I'm not sure any of this solves that problem. So, and,
But Joe, your thoughts between every 6 months versus once a year?
well, I think once a year could just give us one shot at everybody missing it.
Well, or it could give us one shot at doing it, could give us one shot at doing it right.
Yeah. It's, we have an advertising issue there. People have to know it's out there. The other thing that this misses, and this would not help our flood relief issue, because that was individuals. And I don't know that we can give money to individuals, and maybe we have to work through an organization. What I liked was the Lafayette thing, where they were sponsoring a fundraiser that then went to an organization that took care of emergency assistance. And emergency assistance strikes a chord at me. I don't know what our needs are in Superior, but I'd like to be able to meet an emergency assistance need for families that comes up. And that, again, then people have to know it's there. And
I prefer not a 501c3 only because those organizations already know granting agencies. So
Right.
I'd rather see us be able to at least pick up the individuals who wouldn't have that opportunity.
So my thoughts here is, I'd like to know who or what we're trying to accomplish. And I just don't see that here.
yeah. Well, the program to me always was meant to better the community. So we were supporting an organization that was bettering the community through a grant.
I mean, there's a lot of criteria that would benefit the community too. So that's the purpose, I guess. If
That was my take on it.
Enhance.
But it turned out to be who knew about it and asked for the money.
But that's a communication issue. We need to do a better job letting.
Yeah,
I mean, this last year, we really tried to get the word out. I mean, we sent letters out to a whole bunch.
Was it in the newsletter?
It was in the newsletter, it's on the website.
Goes to every household.
I've got,
Wow.
I never saw it either.
Me neither.
I can
when you
forward you
look-
the e-blast, I can save all the e-blasts, so I can forward
When you
those.
look at all the
I believe you, I just didn't see
Yeah.
it yet.
all the organizations that were granted, there's a pretty close common denominator with Superior Elementary.
Mhm.
Well, El Dorado is a little bit there.
Oh, dance group.
Boy Scouts,
A little dance group that
sports.
used to
I mean,
get
it's the
stuff.
same, it seems like it's the same.
And there's usually a connection to somebody on the board, mentions it to
Wheels
somebody.
and Sister Carbon are not related to anything.
Right.
So.
Sister Carmen was, and Meals on Wheels were a little bit different. It appears.
Yeah, and this doesn't
Sister
go
Carmen's
back.
twice, so.
Right.
Going back to what Joe says, obviously, if you've got somebody telling you about the availability of this money, that seems to me to be the common link here as well, which tells me that our marketing, try as we may, our marketing is probably not generating much of this interest. And part of it is, having been on different committees that tried to get grants, et cetera, if it's a lot of work for a little money, you're not inclined to go there, right? You got to make your time worth something. So, that's why I can do 6 months, but that's why a year. If we can identify, for example, let's say, just example purposes, we still do 10 grand, and we identify, you can get up to $2,500, which is for initiatives that we would support in a year. To me, that is maybe worth my organization trying for. But if we give 10 out at $1,000 max, or if we give 20 out at 500 max, I'm not going to waste my time. So there is, you got to go there.
So can I just for a discussion's point, I have been going back and forth on this about what the right thing is to do and whether or not we should do it at all, but it seems like for a little bit of money, we can generate a lot of goodwill, so maybe we have a discussion. The schools always come forward for something. Maybe we should say, we'll give Monarch High School, El Dorado K-8, and Superior Elementary $1,000 a year. Don't come to me about anything else.
But who doles that out? That's not our deal. But who
gets it?
Who gets it?
I want to see good
PTA or
ideas.
PTO or things like that. So that's just for discussion's
They can
point.
use it at their discretion.
And whether or not we want to just give, Meals on Wheels and or Sister Carmen something every year and just call it a line item and be done with it. So just for discussion's point. But
And the other thing I was going to say before, that was, I'd really like to know how Lafayette, Louisville, Erie, and Broomfield advertise their program. So, they presumably get grant applicants that they're happy with or interested in, or if they're not, let's hear about that too. But
That's a good
I think,
idea.
how do they outreach so that they get interesting applications? And on your point, I see the ease of what you're saying, but I want to see those good ideas. I don't want it to be just a gift.
I think they can just, so, totally understand that. The interesting discussion is just one of those things. I think they can just shift things around to show that it's going to a particular project, so.
From last year's recipients, this is kind of maybe I'm not reading this right, but Superior Ruby Football Club, is that?
Rugby.
It says Ruby twice. So the first time I thought it was a misspell, but it's Ruby. I thought maybe
No,
it's on
it's for the Ruby
misspell.
Club.
It is rugby, that's what I thought. Okay. All right.
Yeah, so,
What was the max last year anybody could get?
So the limit in the current program is any group or organization is limited to $1,500 in a 2-year time frame.
So you're saying Monarch Little League must have gotten 1,000 and then 50, okay. Because it got 2,500 for the second quarter.
2,500, yeah.
That's quite a,
I think 2,500 is the max, is a fine amount, and more with the while.
Sister Carmen, 650, 850. Your thoughts on 6 months versus a year?
Mine. But I don't have strong feelings about it, honestly. I wouldn't want to say you have to wait till the end of the year before you apply, so I'm not sure what an annual, what that actually mechanically would look like. Can you give it all on January 1 and then you're done for the year, or do you have to wait till the end of the year? Or it's just the max throughout the entire year that the budget can allocate?
What if we just think outside the box and not be thinking in terms of what all the other cities do with their contingency grant funds, and come up with a goal that we want to achieve, like help.
Like the app competition they had in one of the other communities, was that Longmont? Where they had a contest among their residents to who can come up with the most interesting or best app that serves the town in some way.
Okay, that's one.
So anyway, sorry, that's just one
Or-
That's
example.
actually.
So just along those lines,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that there are some things that we can, so if we're supporting our schools, that's a direct benefit to the community, to our children and to the community in general. So and if we're supporting people that don't have enough food to eat through Sister Carmen, that's another community benefit, so.
Well, going along
But, I mean,
this joint
there's got to
thought.
be a specific
Yeah.
goal.
For example, if this year our initiative is education, then we put a challenge out to all the schools to come to us with innovative programs that they want funded for a maximum of X. If our thing, for example, what came to mind along that vein is transportation. We know some people are really disadvantaged by getting rid of the little green bus thing, And there are some transportation needs in this community that aren't met. Maybe it could be a focus on transportation. Artwork, public art, we could, goes a little bit different to where we have a public art competition for a couple of specific areas or so. And then, what was your thought?
I didn't, I was
Out
trying
of
to.
the box.
I was
Right.
trying to get others. to think out of the box.
So I'm hearing this is kind of meshing with perhaps an annual grant that we pick on an annual basis, that we pick the emphasis for that competition.
But
to-
maybe
and advertise it, and then, so it becomes like a contest that is advertised
You
and,
can have two of them
Yeah,
a year.
twice
You don't
a
have to
or
have
twice,
twice
you could do it twice a year,
Right.
but- and we have to come up with 2 ideas a year.
And maybe
which is
it's
hard for
not
us.
just one.
And maybe the contest is for half the money. I mean, it doesn't have to.
But something,
And I would
yeah,
not give to the schools upfront $1,000 a piece, just without them, doing something for us. I like the competition more. If there's something.
Well, and Andrew's absolutely correct. Education is something that affects the whole community, affects all the kids. I mean, that seems like a natural starting point here, but not to give it away. To
Right,
have a
that's what I'm saying.
competition with a specific intent, and we'll and then we've got a limited market to educate. We know we have to go out to the educators, who hopefully go out to all their teachers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we say the specific goal of this education initiative this year is X, and we will take applications through X, and then we have to have a committee who decides on the winners up to a max grant of X.
I like that.
I do
But I wouldn't
too.
like to limit it to only schools.
There could be one for 1 year. or-
Education is one thing, it doesn't have to be schools.
6 months, yeah.
And what about an art contest for designing a town T-shirt?
Can we do that for Arbor Day already? We already do that for Arbor Day and some other.
Okay.
And that got to be an unhappy contest.
I love the idea of public art. It doesn't have to come in this
Maybe
venue.
public art?
But
That's better.
I don't know if you've read how Lafayette has made this huge commitment to public art, and it's really reaping wonderful benefits over there in creating community identity and such. And to assist, to help artists who
Can I just
who aren't
say,
supported.
that's a great idea, but now you've just targeted a tiny little segment of the population.
Sometimes we will, sometimes we won't,
I
depending
mean,
on what our
each idea can be Stanford, so,
Long time no see.
we don't know all the ideas right now.
Good to have you back there.
Get a couple a year.
So
And I like this
so
concept.
I wonder if we should do like the first 6 months and $5,000 targeted to
Right.
whatever,
Right.
education seems like a.
Well, it certainly maybe deserves a little more discussion.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that time will come back to us with something to react to, right?
Right.
Yeah, well, we're not approving anything
And
tonight.
give the
so-
schools like 60 days or 90 days to come up
Well,
with.
or, I think maybe, if we like this idea, could we just spend 10 minutes brainstorming broad initiatives like education, maybe transportation, maybe art? Lisa, what was yours again?
An app.
An
I
app?
was just giving you an example of
Yeah.
a town that's taken this
Right.
kind of an idea.
Or it could be social services that
Social
are not
services,
currently
yeah.
met.
Right, senior
That's what I would
services
care
is
about a
sort of
lot.
Senior
Yeah.
services, So if we can throw those, just brainstorm and throw those all at staff, maybe then they can.
Staff is typing away.
Yeah, sorry.
Some sort of contest that allows broad participation.
We could have a competition to design the Gateway to Boulder Valley logo,
There you go.
although we
Art-
probably would have to accept it.
What if you don't like the-
I bet you-
I mean, that's a good program thing.
I bet you'd be surprised of how many that come in that are incredible.
So
Right.
arts, education, human social services.
Social media, something, that affects the town. I like the app.
Youth programs.
Programs.
Youth program,
I like that one.
That's a start.
And it would just be allocated to.
How about community?
Well, we would pick out for,
Community
We have 2 years.
enhancement, been something that I've seen.
Community enhancement.
And community get-togethers and all that sort of stuff. I mean, the sense of community that we've been doing. Yes.
Enhancing a sense of
Community building,
community.
Yes, that's what I would like to see.
We should time it twice a year to our events so that we can award the person
And
at the
showcase
event
that,
and
yeah.
showcase it. I mean, that might be really good advertising when you've got the Chili Fest right there.
Thousands of
And-
people,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
We could definitely do that. Well, so June and the end of the year was what I was thinking when you said twice a year, but if,
Maybe it's, you know,
Fall and spring.
March and September or April.
or
and
maybe it's
October.
May and September.
okay.
May is our mogul, or mogul.
Right.
I think this really has a great opportunity to enhance the advertising of this thing, and just accomplishing that would be great.
Well, and there can be more than one winner, too. You know, there,
Gonna have 5,000,
Yeah.
2,500.
Well, I knew that our first place, second place.
I would suggest 5,000 for this idea of
For the
maybe not
first
being
round.
enough every 6 months, maybe 10,000 every 6 months, up to a max of X, like 2,500 per idea or something.
I think for this year,
But
this-
I'd like to see what staff can
So,
see with that on.
wait a minute, and so, first place could be the actual money, and second and third place, we could get a sponsor, like, you know, Old Chicago, or Superior Liquors, or whoever it is, so that they give, you know, a gift certificate. You have a $30 gift certificate, $50 gift certificate, you know, some sort of incentive to want to place in second or third.
How about we just advertise what the max money is or something, and then see what we get? I mean, some people may only need a small portion of it, I don't know. So I'm a little leery of saying the first prize winner gets the whole schmear if that's not what they
Yeah, I
need,
agree.
so.
Well, I mean,
And then
if
put
you're
it
doing
next to
it
the
twice a
bottle,
year,
right.
Yeah,
and you've
right.
got 10 grand, it's
Pizza.
Yeah.
We can at least
a thought.
Okay.
look at possible sponsorship. Sponsorships sometimes are tough depending on the economy, but we can at least look into it.
I mean, there'll be some that will have first, second, and third prize, and the other, and depending on the category, the other one will be like one prize, kids are all.
It just
because
depends on
that's-
that.
Well, I'm actually
some of
more
that-
looking for the development of a program, and, you know, this would be.
So a question for the town manager,
And
if that's okay. How does this sound to you?
I think those are all good ideas. We'll have to go back and revamp what we put together.
No, and I apologize about that because I.
No, that's
I'm sorry that
fine.
they did all
No.
that
So don't have to
hard,
discuss
good
it
work.
first.
but-
Nobody was expecting, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
You went,
Perfect.
when you went to
Perfect.
straw man, you went,
But the criteria is still good and still sound, so, you know.
It got us talking.
Yeah. Name, I know name was a concern in the budget.
Name?
Right now. it's-
contingency grant isn't a good.
Contingency grant is how it's been labeled in the past.
Challenge fund?
That's better.
I like that a
You're assuming
lot.
that, yeah,
Or superior
challenge.
challenge grants.
That's
But
good.
that's
I
it.
wouldn't call it
That's it, no, what?
Well, you
what-
Yeah, just superior
what Sandy
challenge
just
grant
said.
works for me.
Say that again, superior
Superior
challenge?
challenge grant.
That's
Boom.
what
That's
you
it.
said, Andrea.
Well, that is me,
Superior
that is me.
challenge
Yes,
grants.
that's it.
I don't know about.
And we laid the challenge
Well,
out
we're
there.
granting the money, so it is a grant.
Yeah, but
But it's a
grant
challenge, superior.
implies, yeah,
It doesn't have a negative connotation.
I don't care if it's grant or fund, but I think it's
Okay.
fine. It's not worth fighting over. I mean,
Funds
Or
are
you can
grants.
just leave it.
two little dark.
I like it grants,
I like
because then we
superior.
get to
Grants is
search
fine.
for grants, which is
Yeah.
what we want.
Because the money's being granted, I mean, it's excellent.
What?
You know, you
The
guys-
idea.
Yeah.
And then,
That's fantastic.
You guys are
Joint.
we all work together on this.
There we go.
Here we go. Yeah, this has evolved too, because when I got this, I'm like,
I was going to hold the answer.
I thought you were going to go,
No, it's going to sing Kumbaya.
We'll do that on your last day before you leave. That'll mean you're going away instead of happy birthday or thanks for the memories. Thanks for the memories,
I think we
actually.
thought
good.
outside the box.
that's good.
Way
Pushing
outside.
us.
good enough.
and then leave the funds allocated for this year, 10,000.
I would for the
That's what's in
budget.
the budget.
But would you reconsider that next year's budget, maybe perhaps?
Yeah.
We have the choice.
Depending on how this year goes.
I could see going to 20.
Well, I have to say, the one that rings the truest to me is the education idea, because schools are always looking for ideas, and we can expand it to Lisa's thing to where it goes beyond a traditional bricks and mortar
Yeah.
school to a school-like an education-type program or something like that, too. But I can't see how, everybody benefits, the whole community
And
benefits.
see, I think, for me, the one that I'd like most to see is something about the building community.
I like that
That's the one I
too.
prefer.
And the idea that
Schools get a lot of attention, sorry.
Buildings
Joe's
and-
idea of perhaps, for the needy, sometimes, occasionally there's, God forbid, but there's a fire at in an apartment, Horizons, or at a condo, a kid loses all their, their toys, all their stuff, that we can maybe be able to, I would like to have that.
I would like to make that a separate thing. I think
Okay.
this challenge grant is different from contingency, which is need-based, and maybe there's room for two, like a $5,000 reserve and a contingency grant fund to meet a need like that one. So maybe that name stays for what it would be,
Well,
which is a
and maybe it's
contingency.
called a relief fund, where you
That's more
put
of a
the
relief.
$5,000 in it, and every year, if there isn't one, well,
Or
then it just
Superior
rolls over the
Assistance
next
Fund.
year.
No, actually, when I went down to Haiti after the earthquake, there was a Haiti relief fund, and people contributed money that was able to buy supplies to take them down to the orphanage, so that worked out great. You call it what it is, really.
So I think there's a number of areas that we would like to target.
Like, yeah, definitely. And those are a lot of times sensitive, and perhaps we have, those are, maybe have to be handled a little more discreetly. So,
Wouldn't
but,
be like a contest.
huh?
It
Right.
would not be a contest.
Who's the neediest?
We would just have the established
That's
mechanism for reviewing.
Yeah.
We'd establish a mechanism for review, and then the people who are responsible for that review have the responsibility to assign monies.
Okay.
Well, I did, when I was reading through this, I was wondering if we were to choose an organization, for example, to handle our grant for the needy, could we, one that came to mind was Sister Carmen, of course, but EFAA always contributed to that. And can Superior give money to an organization with the proviso that it only be used within Superior? That's a question I had that we'd have to research, but
But we never have that stipulation before.
no, I'm saying if we were using an organization
Ah.
to handle the distribution of the emergency assistance, and we would do to make a grant to that organization that says, we want to give you X number of dollars for emergency needs in Superior only.
Yeah.
But
You can do that with a church, but I
Right,
don't, we
like
can't.
Red Cross, they don't do that. And I think even Sister Carmen, they help a number of our residents in town, but they don't take our money and set it aside specifically for, because our needs might be more than what we're giving them, so that's typically the reason they don't just set it aside for our residents.
I like the use of the chamber, though.
I was going to say, they
Yeah.
did it as we asked. Yes.
I guess we never found out, did that work well, or were there some problems with determining where those monies went? I think they could have used more money.
I think the process
Worked
was
well?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
That's what I heard.
really well, yeah. And Kendra has a memo that we'll forward you tomorrow on the board's question about the Superior Improvement Foundation and possibly using that. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but
Okay.
you'll see that tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you.
8 minutes break.
Oh, thank you, James. And how are you?
How are you, George? I'm good.
Oh, I should never guess.
Welcome, everybody. I'd like to call to order a Town of Superior Board of Trustees, Superior McCaslin Interchange Metropolitan District Board of Directors, and a Superior Metropolitan District Number 1 Board of Directors for February 24th, 2014. Phyllis, if you'd call the roll.
Mayor Andrew Muckle.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Joe Cirelli.
Here.
Trustee Zevia Gregoris.
Here.
Chris Hansen. Sandy Pennington.
Here.
Lisa Stevens.
Here.
Deborah Williams.
Here.
Town Manager Matt Bagley.
Here.
Town Attorney Kendra Carberry.
Here.
Town Clerk Colasar. Here.
Thanks. Are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
Yes.
Trustee Williams.
I'd like to pull off the consent agenda 7G and 7H.
Any other changes? So G and H to follow the consent agenda. Seeing none, Trustee Skumas, you approve the agenda with those changes?
Yes.
Second by Trustee Williams, all in favor?
Okay.
Unanimous, thank you very much. That brings us to reports, questions, and issues. Trustee Cirelli, do you want to start this evening?
Let's see, two things reporting on getting ready for the Mayor's Commissioner's trip to DC, which leaves this Wednesday and comes back on Friday. And there's a large group going. There's at least more than a half dozen people that are not part of the mayors and commissioners, from either the 36 community solutions or Longmont ascending to a board member and a staffer, and somebody from RTD is going, and it should be interesting, and report back on that. The other thing, I went to Historical Commission meeting last Friday, and a couple of things to report on that. They had their new election, which pretty much is the same group of officers as past, which Larry Dorsey be chairperson, and Bob Morgan treasurer, Karen Malachowski secretary. New vice chair, because this is kind of earth-shaking news. Denzel Ackland is thinking of, well, he's in the process of selling his house and moving out of state, which is like, this is a big deal if this happens. And so he is not going to be the vice chair next year. He has not resigned from the commission yet. It's not needed, but I suspect we may be having a vacancy, another vacancy there sometime in the next couple of months. The commission, in their last meeting, I think when Lisa was there, started brainstorming some name. They were asked to submit suggested street names for the town center, and they had a fairly long list, and then they've pared that down to now 5 names that they've submitted that are going to work their way through on a priority basis of what they would like to see first, second, third, fourth, fifth.
Do you know what they are?
I did, but I don't anymore. But that would be letting it out of the bag anyways. It needs to work its way up. And I didn't participate in that voting process. So the third thing that they have coming is April 24th. Their spring program is scheduled, and they have lined up an individual by the name of Steve Lee, who is going to portray a historical Colorado figure by the name of Otto Mears and tell his story. And I wish I could tell you more about Otto Mears, but he's of significant Colorado history. And and they continue to work towards getting the oral history program going. And so that is important. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Skumatz.
3 things, I guess. One is that I attended a Saturday meeting with Representative Primavera and Senator Nicholson here at the town center that happens on second and fourth, or first and third Wednesday or Saturdays, 2 to 4. I know trustee Pennington was also there, I can't recall if anyone else was also there. The hot topic was the toll lanes on 36, since it was a Saturday and Wednesday was the day that any comments had to be made. So that was by far the hot topic. It was reasonably well attended. It was a lively discussion, and they left with some opinions that they heard from us. I won't be at the March 10th meeting, and on March 1st, this coming Saturday, from 7:30 to 8:45, I'll have a coffee buzz at Panera. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Williams?
Yes, I attended a joint House and Senate Transportation Committee meeting at the state capitol, and that was specifically called on US 36 and the plenary concessionaire contract for US 36. Matt Applebaum and Will Tour, who used to be a mayor of Boulder and a current mayor of Boulder.
Tori used to be the county commissioner.
And a county commissioner as well. But they actually introduced Will Tour as a former mayor of Boulder. They didn't seem to really...
The mayors are more important than commissioners.
At that point, they really just called up mayors to have testimony. And the two of them had a lot of very informative history on US 36, as well as where all the funding came from, where we started, where we are today. Then Don Hunt, who is the director of CDOT, made a presentation, and he kind of danced around whether he would postpone the contract or not, so that the House and the Senate Transportation Committee could actually review the contract for 60 days, which is what they asked for. In the end, he basically said, if we do that, it'll kill the deal. And, you know, we hear that quite a bit at the local level sometimes.
I knew you were going to say that.
You knew it. I had to give that little note there. It's kind of frustrating when you hear that. You know, it's kind of reminds you of when you go to the automobile dealer and he gives you a deal and he says, you know, if you walk away, the deal will not be there tomorrow. And, you know, this is what we're talking about. So, you know, I was just disappointed that we can't see a little bit more details and more transparency. And CDOT noted that that was their biggest failure in this whole process. So
I think they had an issue with budgeting, too.
well, the real problem here was that the public was not alerted as to what exactly US 36, CDOT, and HPTE were doing when they were creating a P3, which is public and private partnerships together in creating funding. So anyway, it was interesting to listen to it. It was interesting for the history. I definitely enjoyed hearing that from both the mayors, and that was very informative to help you understand that there's really no funds out there. And this was just a creative way of being able to fund it. And HPTE was created in 2009 at Faster Bill for creative funding. And creative funding sometimes has to bring, you know, a private company to the table. Did you want to say something?
It's just my politically incorrect comment that, you know, it's nice that the state got interested in this project. Just wondering to myself where they were in the last decade when this was all being discussed, but I guess that was my outside voice. So, sorry, thank you for letting me vent. Okay, I'm done.
And I think that's very interesting, your perspective, because their perspective was, how come no one came to them and asked for money? That's what I'm serious, that is honestly what they walked away saying.
Okay.
So, it goes, there's always two sides to a story. So moving on, I had a DRCOG meeting, which is Denver Regional Council of Governments, and we discussed the process. kind of revamping process in how we operate. I also wanted to note that they are redesigning their website to be more interactive and organized, and we are doing the same, so it seems to be everyone's on the same bandwagon. And I have some things I wanted to pass out to the board and whoever, I think there's some extras. And these are just a quick at-a-glance reference materials on 3 areas that DRCOG is tasked with. There's regional planning, and they call that Metro Vision. And then there's what they call MPO, which is a transportation policy making, and then the Area Agency on Aging. Just so you know, the Area Agency on Aging does not cover Boulder County, because Boulder County has their own aging agency. So we're welcome to use DRCOG, but we have Boulder County services as well. But I wanted to make just a couple of notes on these. First of all, there's one page that's called Metro Vision. How are we doing on quantifiable goals? So some of the goals that we set a year ago, I mean, where are we? And so that was, for me, a really great little giveaway here. A couple of them that really kind of jumped out at me was increase urban household density by 10% by 2035. And it says they were able to, the progress is increased by 19% between 2000 and 2010. So what this means is they're gearing towards mixed use, high density developments that they were trying to encourage through the metro area, so that we're not a sprawling, we're not building out, we're building up. So that increase, so obviously that message is getting through. And then, and the other one is increase amount of protected open space to 880 square miles by 2035. And it says that the progress is increased by nearly 200 square miles between 2006 and 2013. So we're doing well on that as well. And then there's a couple that are, they're minor. They're probably plus or minus an error, so who knows if they're really any progress. But fatal crashes have been reduced, and the vehicle miles traveled per capita, it's been decreased by minus 2%. That means less vehicles on the road. That's good. But, I would say minus 2% is not a big leap. So I think we still have work to do there. And then reduce the percent of trips to work by single occupancy vehicles to 65% by 2035. So we have actually only made up 2%. So it's decreased from 77% in 2005 to 75% in 2012. So these are some of the Metro Vision goals that we set, in the last few years, that it's good to know whether you're actually meeting them or if it's just a vision that's on paper that means nothing.
And I have one of those external comments as well, which is the forecasting that they make for how many people they think they're going to drive the buses is always completely off the charts from my point of view.
Oh, yeah.
They're just wishful thinking.
It is.
Yes.
I agree, including with light rail and commuter rail and all of that. And then there's some other interesting things, the transportation planning. They talk about the, what they call the TIP is Transportation Improvement Projects. Is that projects?
Plan, I don't remember.
Planning or, TIP, whatever. It's the amount of funds that go to each county for transportation projects. And it was comparing each county and how much each county gets from Dr. Cog's funds. And we're pretty good. We're a little above average in the amount of money that comes into Boulder County. So I think that's good. It always, when you're at Dr. Cog and you're kind of sitting there trying to represent Boulder County and Superior, you're kind of thinking, I'm the underdog and I don't really get as much money as, say, Denver County or Broomfield because they're bigger, but that actually is not the case. So that's a nice little sheet to look at. Here's one that I thought was really interesting, is Journey to Work data by county. So it's, you live in this county and where are you traveling to get to work? And it actually shows the majority of trips for work is within their county that they live in, which is not what I would think. I would think, based on seeing all the commuting on 36 and I-25, that people commute, from Longmont to Denver or Superior to downtown Denver or Superior to Boulder. But the majority of who live in their area actually work in their area. So I thought that was an eye-opener for me. I would not have guessed that. Let's see here. And then last that I thought was interesting was the Older Americans Act. It's up for reauthorization in DC. And it's outdated. It's about 13-year data based on census figures. The Older Americans Act, apparently it doesn't use current senior population figures, which translates to lost services and funding in the neighborhood of $5.5 million over the next 6 years for Colorado, just the state of Colorado. And what Dr. Cog is having an issue is that not all states receive the same percentage of sequestration cuts. And so that meant that Colorado had deeper cuts than other states with low senior population growth. For example, Colorado had a 15% cut, and New York, Kansas, Iowa, New Jersey, and Illinois, and there's a few other states, only got a 1% cut. So it's a little skewed, and it needs to be revamped. And then, are we going to discuss this marketing strategy that we received on the Superior Town Center?
When it comes to
at
the
the end?
manager's report.
Okay.
Trustee Gurgurs.
So this is both a pet peeve of mine, but also some that I want to bring up, and also would like to hear from Jim Payne, because it does relate to Rock Creek HOA. We live in Boulder County. The winds are howling. This is part of where we live, This happens frequently throughout the year. It seems when we have to take out the trash bins and the recycling bins, a lot of people do it the night before. Well, in the middle of the night, you get gusts 40, 50, 60, 70 miles an hour, and you wake up the next morning and your whole community is just full of trash. And is there a way to either remind or educate residents to just try and get up first thing in the morning and take them out then? And I don't think it's only a Rock Creek issue. I don't know if this happens in Original Town or if it happens in Sagamore, but I would imagine if you're taking them out the night before, they're going to be, trash and recycling all over the place. And this happens every single year. It doesn't happen every month. It doesn't happen every week, but we have several events when the winds are considerable. Is there any way to either enforce that or educate or just remind folks to...
So there's some language in the code as far as when residents can put out receptacles and when they have to be back in, but I think it allows them to put it out the night before currently.
Yeah, I think the town code is pretty lenient compared to what because I think it's like 24 hours in advance and 48 hours after or something like that.
So it's just common sense, though. I mean, if listen to the weather. If it's going to be windy, overnight, don't take your trash out or your recycling.
That is common sense.
I know, I'm just,
Perfectly sensible.
it'd be nice to have that.
Put in the newsletter once in a while.
So maybe in a newsletter, just as a
Yeah.
reminder once in a while to
Can we do a
put that out
picture
there.
of you, trustee Kokoris, waggling your finger and
Don't-
remember?
I need to look. I need to look.
Only you
Trash
prevent
around.
trash, right?
Why don't you attach a flyer to the trash can? Seriously, so that when you bring them in, they don't see.
Well,
it, like
that's,
the other
it's
kids.
a reminder. And Jim, the HOA requirements, is it 24 hours, or is it, I don't remember what it's.
I don't know
so-
what the HOAs.
But we have an expert here.
Yes.
Well, Jim Payne, Superior Resident, HOA Board. I don't think we have anything that's different from the towns. I think we're in alignment with the town on that. And my understanding, Matt, is that it's 7 o'clock the night before, and it's supposed to
Yeah,
be.
that's correct. yeah.
We do fine if they're not back off the street within 24 hours. But that's not what you're referring to.
That's not, no, it's.
Trash
It's
still.
when the trash is full, yeah. When it's empty and they leave them out there, I could care less.
I'd be happy to-
Stay there for a few extra hours.
I have seen newsletters, either from the HOA or maybe from the town, that have raised this point about not putting them out the night before.
But we'd be happy to look at it jointly or. and-
Yeah,
and see
even
what
if we
we
don't
can do
change the
through-
code, would you mind putting in next month's newsletter from you guys, just as a reminder to the residents to
We'll look
be
this.
mindful of the wind?
It says January through December is windy season in Boulder.
Yeah, pretty much, that's right. It is.
Some language that says,
Happy to look at it.
And every Monday is windy.
It almost, it just seems like, yes, Mondays are so that's one issue that I have. The other question for the board is, March 24th, spring break, who will be here, who will not be here, as far as you know?
I'll be here.
I'm here.
Okay, so we're having a meeting on the 24th, okay. Thank you.
Trustee Pennington.
it would be nice if, in your reminder, we reminded people that when their trash is blown into their
do
neighbors,
something
they're
about it.
responsible for cleaning the mess up. I have a collection yard. It just collects all the trash.
It's amazing how it can make turns. Go down my window well.
Well, if you live at the end of the cul-de-sac, we get it, the entire street comes down, you know,
Right.
so,
So my report, a couple of staff things. I want to greatly thank Phyllis for wading back through those October 18th cost-sharing minutes. I think they were only 19 pages or something, and I appreciate you doing it in the form of a red line, so thank you there. And then I know several of us attended the farewell
no, for Beth.
for Beth.
Yes.
And so she will be greatly missed. And I want to know who, are you being accompanied by anybody on staff?
I'm on my own, this is scary.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to put a GPS device on Joe, so we can locate him.
Find my friend.
I might just go by the Pentagon and look for a job.
I too attended the town hall with Jeannie Nicholson, Diane Primavera, have the same report that Lisa has. I thought we had some great engaged residents there, and I thought Jeannie and Diane actually listened. They took notes, and I hope they went back to do something about it. On little libraries, 3 units have been built by Home Depot, and I understand Superior's going to get one. So it raises the question of where would we like to put that one? It cannot be in most of Superior because that's HOA governed, but would we like to seek out a private residence and have that private owner, just assume the responsibility for making sure it's stocked and it's not vandalized, or would we like to put it in a park somewhere?
How big is this?
Here, it's a tiny little thing.
Why couldn't it be where, by the bill paying thing that we have right here in this parking lot?
I love the idea. I like having it at Town 9 where the kids all go to play,
That's a
or a
great
community park or whatever too, but that then sort of makes it
I'll tell you where-
a community responsibility.
I'll tell you where it was done in, one place it was done in Boulder, and it raises an HOA question, but they put one right outside Creekside Elementary School. And so I wonder if Superior Elementary or one of the schools is subject to HOA rules, or whether we could have one outside one of the elementary schools.
Would the town maintain it, or would the school?
I think it was a volunteer effort in Boulder. I don't know who maintains it. Somebody would have to, obviously somebody has to maintain it.
Matt, do you have an opinion on that, on anything to do with
My
it?
staff's thought is we would seek out maybe a resident in the original town that would be willing to put it up just as a start. But that's just our opinion.
And Louisville Library is going to assist with some books, and I've got a whole stack I'm willing to throw at it as well, so.
Same here, and I really like the idea of it being in Town 9, especially if you could, drive up, would be even better.
I'm fine with any approach.
What's Town 9?
Founders.
I'm sorry,
I'm just teasing.
I meant
We
Founders.
stand corrected.
I saw that.
Dating yourself.
So shall we just have town staff proceed in a fashion in which they would like to proceed?
And location?
I say original town.
Yes.
Come with some ideas.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
We can do that.
And does Home Depot donate these, or what's the expense to buy one of these?
Well, it's a national program. If you go through the national program, it's $200, but Home Depot built these 3 gratis. And the intent, by the way, I wanted to report this, Matt, the intent was perhaps to identify an Eagle Scout who wanted to do this as their Eagle Scout project, and we did identify, but they never showed up for the meeting with Beth Barrett. So would you just double check?
Yeah.
Beth Moisky had been handling that, so wouldn't you think this would be a perfect job for Eagle Scouts?
Great Eagle Scout project.
Anyway,
How many are we allowed to have in the community?
as many as we
Well,
would,
there's no,
like and
Flood the market.
authorize.
And then how would the community know where they all are?
We can put it in the newsletter or...
On the website.
Website or whatnot, and hopefully after they're very successful, the HOA can be persuaded to allow them. Jim's shaking his head, but I remain hopeful. Okay, there is actually some other business here, but I too went to the Joint Transportation Committee meeting and then spent some other time around the halls of the State House. And, Andrew, I really pay attention to your comment, because the portrayal by CDOT and Schrutz and of HPTE, the High Performance Transportation Enterprise that was authorized by the 2009 FAST Act, was that, they worked really well with local governments for the first 15 years. And in fact, Will Torr said the same, that he thought they worked well together as well. But I have to say, it's all process. And, when we read the language of the FAST Act, and it says that substantially affected local governments must give their approval, which by all accounts did not happen by us or by any substantially affected local government. Probably it's speculated because the toll lane is an additional lane and didn't take up space on the existing lanes, which, by the way, at the State House is deemed a contrivance. It's not deemed their intent. That's where I have some problems with this, and it wouldn't have hurt I would expect a well-intended, good faith effort to include that local approval, particularly if, in fact, we did work for 15 years in a nice collaboration. I don't know why you wouldn't seek that local approval. So I expect that that's going to be in the legislation that comes forward yet in this session to improve some of this process type stuff. So,
My guess is that you'll see more and more of this around the state. As I was driving back from the mountains this weekend, I noticed it looks like they're going to start tolling one lane in the twin tunnels. So my
Right.
guess is that that's going to be...
They're already
They
laying
said it was
groundwork
free
for that.
through 2015, leading me to believe that it won't be.
That's going to be
Free after
potentially
that.
another PPP, a public-private thing, running I-70. But by all accounts, 50 years is pretty outrageous. Some of the fact that $20 million in investment was all plenary group put down on the table to get 50 years of tolls. There are some problems with this, but it all comes down to, had the material parts of this been sent back to the local governments, nobody would have been surprised. And I think that's where the surprise factor came in. So that's what I learned in my trolling of the State House hallways this last week. Then want to go to the OSAC committee. They too elected their leadership. Sharon Tedeschi is chairperson once again. Matt Finnegan is vice chair. But they did two things that I thought Martin was going to put on the agenda to seek board approval on, but he broke his shoulder or something, so it may have... Collarbone. So that may be the reason it didn't. One is they would like to see their committee start each meeting, second Wednesday of the month, at 6:30 rather than 7. And that's sort of, I think, say, a thing maybe the full board should discuss. Martin suggests that go to the full board.
But that's not what the minutes say. That they unanimously approved it.
Well, they unanimously agreed to it, subject to board approval. That was the little clause that didn't make it in there. And so Martin preserved, and I seconded the notion that it should be discussed by the board, because, we discussed this a little bit in the advisory committee thing, that if you have a standard time for these committees to meet, the public knows when they meet, the public can come and comment. It becomes less about necessarily accommodating the current members and more about, having a standardized expectation. So we don't have to discuss it now if you want to think about it for a meeting, but it's a change they're suggesting. And then the other thing was, there is a lot of concern expressed on the committee that nobody's looking after the Coal Creek corridor in the Superior Town Center, and possibly even going into what happens to the Rogers property, et cetera. And so they discussed that in quite a bit of detail, that that's sort of a natural charge of theirs. And eventually they adopted a resolution that was in the minutes that POSTAC apparently adopted at its meeting, and we don't have the minutes yet, for the board to authorize the formation of a working group to discuss matters relating to the Coal Creek corridor. The purpose of a working group is sort of a limited duration while this topic remains important. The other alternative, to me, is it's a natural charge of OSAC. So if they would like to take on that responsibility themselves, perhaps a working group doesn't need to be made, and they can invite whoever they choose to get different perspectives on this. So I wanted to throw that all out as well.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it is within their purview, so I would just recommend that they continue to work on that.
And put forth their opinions on it.
And I was hoping that somebody was going to take up that charge.
And where do you think it fits?
I think it fits in OSAC. I mean, it fit before. OSAC actually worked on preserving the creek corridor where Autry Park is.
But
I almost said a different... Yep.
But that's an example of where it really overlaps, because POSTAC was working on park amenities. OSAC was looking at the impact on Rock Creek, and it's not one purview or the other, and I see the same issue in Town Center. So I think it's fine to get recommendations from both, and then we just figure out what we think is right after we hear the input from both.
I think that actually is a reminder, I think that actually is the discussion, is because POSTAC is handling the process sort of up to the creek corridor. And, where does one end and where does the other begin, that kind of thing. And Jim spoke to this at the meeting, so I'll let him.
Yes, good evening again. A little history on this. This started actually, the way the meetings are set up, the committees, OSAC meets and then ProStac, so you're kind of making it look like it was some precedence there. But actually, Sharon Tedeschi, who chairs OSAC, and I, who no longer, but was chairing ProStac, had a conversation about this because we were both instrumental in the working group for Hodgson Harris, and that worked so well. So I think this is a great example. It would not be, you'd have a few volunteers from ProStac, a few from OSAC, possibly, as we did there, one or two board liaisons, and other stakeholders. You'd have a stakeholder from the developer would be fine. We'd work with a staff liaison to identify the necessary resources, whether it's wildlife, recreational, whatever, because there are issues about how close we should come and how we should, regulate or control the activity that's right around the creek and do that in a wise way. So we know it's not on the developer's plate, and it's sort of falling through the crack. So we felt that a coordinated effort with a working group, as in the Hodgson Harris example, which Trustee Williams is very closely involved with, would be a great way to do this. Wouldn't have to meet monthly, could be as needed over the duration, which could be, we figure, anywhere from 6 to 18 months, and then disband. And I think it's a good way to get stakeholders and people who are interested, including members of the public who aren't on committees.
I appreciate that, Jim. That's a much fuller review, so I throw that now back to everybody, having heard that.
So I was going to make a comment. If we're going to do such as a working group like we did with Hodgkin Harris, I think it would be very crucial to bring in outside entities like urban drainage. And I don't know if they would participate in it, but...
I'm sure they would.
Okay, you think they would. That would be extremely useful.
Wildlife resources.
And maybe there's other resources. There was someone on the Hodgkin Harris working group that was there to protect the wildlife.
Right. And since a county trail is adjacent to it, the county may want to have somebody, I hope, would have somebody on it too. So
the more input obviously can end up with results that are far better than, a few people.
Right.
So.
And with multiple stakeholders from the different, these different sources, I think you'll get a greater sense of consensus, and it won't be, open space versus rec. It'll be people who are trying to find the recommendations for the best use of the corridor.
And we would be hosting that, I'm assuming.
Right.
And we would need to make it very focused and managed well.
Right.
What I probably disagree with you, Jim, on is the duration, because this project is going to take a while to build out, and then if this group's successful, I would, what happens to the Rogers property, basically, it can easily have a function of the corridor beyond Superior Town Center, too, so I wouldn't put necessarily a duration on it. I'm pretty neutral. How we do it in terms of does OSAC basically sort of put that working group together? Does the board put that working group together? How the function. What I care most about is that the creek, Coal Creek is addressed in a systematic fashion in this whole process. So I throw it back at the board. It sounds like you like the idea of working group, having worked with that group before.
I like it if we bring outside entities, because...
That's the idea.
Exactly. Because I think we need more input than just us. I mean, how it worked with Hodgkin Harris was, we had experts from different areas, wildlife and the water district, and there was different entities that came to the table. So I think if we really truly want to get an entire input from any influence at all of that corridor, I think we need to go that route. And that includes OSAC, and that includes ProStac.
But I would,
and that-
in my experience, I would recommend that we not tie it to a particular committee. And you're likely to have 2 or 3 people step forward from those committees. Depending on the legalities, it could be someone from Planning Commission too. Trustee Hansen, who's not here tonight, was at the meeting and raised some concerns about the legalities of having board members or Planning Commission members participate. But we had that legal clearance to do it.
And I believe we only had 1 board member. And did
It
we
was
have a
you,
planning?
and
I know. Did we have a
lead.
planning commissioner at
No.
that?
We can, this is not essential to do tonight, so we
Yeah.
can think about it.
So my recommendation is, can you ask your committees to, not your committees,
Right.
but you know where I'm going, just to formulate a plan that we can look at and improve?
And with staff, with Martin and you.
I guess my 2 things I need to, one is how it plays into the normal plan review process when we get, the development plan for that part of the development won't come forward for another year probably at
Right,
least. So how, because you'll have a separate review for that. The second thing to consider is my staff and having to coordinate another group and have another night meetings.
So, and I have
But I
I have
just
a
did not-
preference for it actually being out of OSAC, because ProStac has such a long set of extra activities and processes they're already doing. It would be really great to see OSAC have something like that, and it's really, to me, fits their purview.
So why don't we,
At the end of the day, it won't be a committee. I just think we could do that.
At least someone has an initiative, and the initiative is taken by OSAC.
I think so.
Whether that, how it all transpires is completely different, but it doesn't have to be owned by one committee.
so why don't we move off this topic, but if you can come back to us with a recommendation?
I'd just like to throw in one dissenting vote. I'm not keen on creating another organization for
Yeah,
this purpose right now.
In OSAC.
Would you put it within OSAC? How would you
I
do it,
think
Joe?
both organizations have a purview, and I think it worked fine at Autry Park. Hodge and Harris was different. It was looking at addressing a need that was outside of the scope of something we would normally do, and
So is this.
no, this isn't. This is within our town and what we're going to do. And we have our system set up for getting advice on how we do things now. And right now, my reaction is why create another organization? Matt has already brought up the fact we have a review process that we follow for plans, and
I could just point out that the working group for Hodge and Harris was not like a committee. It was less formal. It was didn't have all of the legal strictures of an advisory committee. It had it met less frequently, but it was a forum for bringing a wide number of interests, talents, and expertise together, and it worked very well. So I know the committees very well. I worked with them.
That was a
7
great
years.
collaborative effort, if we can duplicate this.
I still have the dissenting
So-
opinion right now.
I'd rather work within a committee, and it can have experts, as ProStac brings experts in on rec. OSAC could be bringing
So,
experts in on...
how about, we'll sit down with Matt, we'll
Yeah.
get Sharon, right
Yeah,
at
that's
the
what-
table, sit down with Matt, and we'll
Yeah.
bring a proposal forward
I don't
on
want
that.
to really need to hammer this out this evening.
Yeah, last thing on that is, you all saw in the minutes that, you saw somewhere in this packet that these outdoor education efforts are beginning by OSAC. They're going to do one on bugs, one on Help Me Out Birds, one on something else. So that's a new initiative of theirs as well. And let me just check here. Joe, that audio preservation from Historical Commission, wonderful idea, especially like Denzel moving out of
Yeah.
town. He's just got a lost resource.
He's not lost. They already have See, Carnegie Library has done some of these already, and that's part of it, getting a hold of what they have, and then what do we need to supplement that.
Right.
Denzel's in that, and then somebody correctly pointed out that it's not impossible to use the telephone if somebody moves.
That's right. Well, an interesting tie-in to our work session with challenge grants.
Yeah,
Preserving the history of this place could well be a challenge grant.
And, time is passing.
Right, people are dying. Once Denzel dies, no telephone's going to work, right? So the point is to preserve the oral history. No, I mean, it's realistic.
Dying everywhere.
But to preserve the oral history of those people who lived, and he was a young child, during the coal mining era. George, look at you.
So
Healthy and robust now. We could get your history. Okay. Okay.
Wrap this up.
And then I look forward to STC marketing issues too, Matt, on your little thing.
All right, town manager.
Thank you, Mayor. That's sales tax for the year, last year, 2013, was up 3.49% compared to 2012. We had budgeted 2.5% for the 13 years, so that was good. Good news. Kendra's firm has gotten us the Gateway to Boulder Valley trademark officially approved.
Yay, thank you,
Thank you for
Kendra.
that. We'll start. We've been using it on the website.
we put a big sign on the Red Bridge.
We just have to now use the trademark symbol next to it, so.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else do I have? And then we received the PD amendment for the Calmonte development and the Discovery Office Park. Staff's reviewing those plans now, and then we'll get our comments back to them, and then once we get it in a stage that's ready to go to the Planning Commission, we'll start scheduling those meetings. And then Trustee Pennington mentioned the Open Space Education Program information, or program that's going to be done over the next 5 months, so we'll advertise that information as well. And then a couple of questions. Just a reminder, the Planning Commission dinner, right now, we have it scheduled for March 10th, starting at 5:30, and then we're just going to start scheduling the rest of the committees, as quick as we can, so. And then development plans, when they're finalized, what size would the board like them in? 11 by 17, or do you want the big sheets?
No big sheets.
I'd rather not have the big ones.
How about this, if you'd like the
One
big
down
sheets, we email me, and then we'll make sure you get the larger set.
I want the big sheets.
Okay. All right.
You're wallpapering your house, aren't you?
Well, it just looks so cool having those in the corner.
Okay.
I can read them, otherwise I can't read them.
SCC marketing.
Oh, yeah, and then I forwarded the board the marketing publication that the developer for the town center put together. They're going to send that out to, not to residents, but they're going to send it out to businesses and, or commercial brokers and those type of, to try to advertise the development. And so they were just looking for the board's feedback on what comments you might have as far as that goes. But it's, we don't really have it, it's not something that gets approved by the town, but it's just something they were looking for feedback from.
So that was my comment. It was nice that it forwarded to us, but they are a for-profit company, that they should have some liberty about the materials that they sent out.
However, since they did ask our opinion,
Yes, fair enough.
pages 19 and 20 are inaccurate information on them.
Make sure they get.
And so surely they don't want to put out inaccurate information.
Correct.
Okay.
I did know that.
Okay.
I did know that.
Anything else, town manager, town attorney? Oh, I'm
I have a
sorry.
question for the
My
town
fault,
manager.
yes. Trustee
So,
Scott.
pardon my ignorance, but I don't, have we gotten big trees and obstructions and whatever out of the creek and near the bridge?
Yes, the ones in the creek, there's some that are on private property that, like the Farmer Rogers property, there's still some debris there. That's not really, it's on private property. So it's,
But the creek is clear? Creek bed?
they're not complete yet, but they're getting close. Yeah.
Can you keep us posted?
I will.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Town attorney?
Nothing, thank you.
Town clerk? That brings to item number 5, public comment on consent agenda and non-agenda items.
That me?
That would be you, George.
Why did you say that?
I think,
I went to sleep.
Sorry,
perhaps we could just give you, I'm just thinking that we should have the George line, but, sorry.
Absolutely.
Yes, you're up, George, sorry.
Lisa, please drive down there and take a look at it, and you'll see what's in the creek and what isn't.
I usually end up doing it at night, and then I don't see it, so sorry.
In the daytime, would you please drive down there, any board members? And if you don't, I'd like to invite you down there to look. That'll answer your question.
Tell us what you're seeing down there,
Trees in the creek.
okay?
And they pulled the machine out today, so there you go. Now the delivery charges would do more about it. I think it should be cleaned up, or it'll be that way next 25 years.
Or the next flood, which is what I'm concerned about. So,
Pardon?
yeah.
Whichever comes first, yeah. Or the next flood, you know.
That could be 25 years. You don't know.
Or tomorrow.
You'll have to look at it in between, because I won't be here then. I have a question for the town attorney. In the minutes, Gladys brought a comment up, and I'd like you to explain to me about this. It says the discussion, the extension of terms for the board members from April to November. I guess you get my glasses. Said there was already approved. What do you mean by already approved?
Voted on it 3 years
When
ago.
we,
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah. So, the attorney works for us, and I think that that's a reasonable question, and if you wouldn't mind answering, that would be fantastic, thank you.
sure.
Extend my 5 minutes to 10, please.
So when we adopted, when there was the election that approved the change of the election from April to November,
That's correct.
part of that ballot question said, and shall the existing trustees' terms get extended for that period from April to November of this year?
Terms of trustees is what it says.
Well, I'll look up the exact language if you want, I have it.
Well, I'm going to say board of trustees. That's why I'm
I don't
asking.
remember specifically, but I can find out.
Well, secondly, we come under state statute, is that correct?
Yes.
What is the term limits of a trustee, and what is the term limits of a mayor? Please answer that question for me.
So I can answer that, it's 2 unless you're home rule and you've changed.
We're not home rule,
Correct.
it's state statute. So I'd
We're a
like to know
statutory
what
town.
the definition of those two is, because I've been under the impression, and looking at the book, reading it, I'm not an attorney, but it says 2 terms,
Exactly.
which is 4 years.
Except for that change, that one term became 4.5 years in essence because
Because the
of,
cipher where it says the mayor is extended 6 months. To me. I'm confused, okay? That's why I'm asking the attorney this question.
Sure. Basically, what it said is that shall the terms of the trustees that would expire in April be extended to November?
That's
Right.
correct.
Yes.
Terms of the trustees.
Yes.
Does not say mayor.
Mayor is a trustee.
He is appointed by resolution, which doesn't, how the board approved that. Beyond state statute is what I'd like to know.
The mayor's not appointed, the mayor's elected.
That's correct.
Right.
The board made a resolution including him as a trustee,
Yes.
okay?
Right.
But he's not really, that's just the town's resolution. That's not the state statute that says 2 terms for mayor, 2 terms for trustee, or trustees. So I'm confused. Please straighten it out for me, will you?
Okay, sounds fair enough, we will have to.
The other way. So I'd like some answers to that, if you don't mind having. answer back for me the
That sounds fair.
definitions of it, please. Secondly, I said, don't worry about the clock. Those, let me get specs out, ma'am. There would be a 5-foot bike or pedestrian lane on either side of the bridge down. I'm talking about the bridge in minutes. It's 2 11-foot vehicle lanes. The entire travel would be 32 feet. Why are we making a bicycle trail across the bridge that goes into a 25-foot road that 2 cars can't pass? Second Street is not a trail, so why put a bicycle, expense of a bicycle on the bridge? That's a residential street, not designated as a trail. The trail goes down McCaslin and down the railroad. So why would we put a bicycle trail going across the bridge for more accidents on Second Avenue, and not just widen Second Avenue all the way down to the railroad track?
So this is a question for the manager, so when
Yeah.
is this coming back around?
I don't have a date for it to come back to the board, but those were just options that were being presented to the board to consider. I mean, one option was bike lanes, another option was sidewalks, and those are just part of the town's standard street requirements that are in the code.
To me, like you put a bicycle deal there, and I know a few of you ride them, Joe, and I ride them. I got 3 of them, but I don't ride them across the bridge. It's not a trail. Just don't make a trail out of it just by putting expensive bicycle paths through there. That ain't regional town.
So this will be
Changing the
a,
scope of the regional town by trying to make a transportation deal for bicycles.
George, I think that these were just suggestions and options. It's not a done deal by any means, so this is
Okay.
going to come back, yeah.
Maybe I get in on a little more then, huh?
Or you want to come back when it does?
yes, come back when it's being approved. Thank you. Additional public comments?
Come back after that. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Heather Craycraft with the Superior Chamber of Commerce, and on the subject of the small libraries, I don't know exactly what you're officially calling them, keep in mind Grasso Park might be a nice location. It's an ease as far as parking, and a park that's not necessarily remembered that often, and we happen to reside there, so I would be happily volunteering to help. And once that decision is made, I would ask staff to, is maybe we could host a ribbon cutting.
Okay,
Great idea.
Ribbon cutting.
It will be the smallest.
The scissor will be as big as the...
And we'll have a hair ribbon.
Could you hand that out, so they can look at that?
Hi there, my name is Elijah, and I'm a junior at Miller High School. And I want to reopen the discussion from 2010 and what is now current to now about the ban on cannabis dispensaries, both retail and medical, in the community, and the logic behind the ban of both.
We can certainly bring it back up again if the board is interested. I personally am not interested in discussing it further. I mean, I don't mean, that sounded harsh, so I didn't mean to be harsh, but from my personal perspective, I think it's probably not a benefit to the community. It's more of a hassle than it's worth, and it's not very difficult to go someplace, say, across the street and find whatever you need, so.
That is true, and we do have 2 dispensaries in Louisville, CPM and Alternates, right over there. However, why should we try and send potential tax money from there and not over here? I mean, I don't know the process of lawmaking, and I'm sure you do a whole lot better than I do. But it seems logical. Sorry.
Yeah, if I may, we have a small staff, we have a limited budget, and for me, it goes as well to, are our resources best used to try to regulate this? And to that, if you read the Denver Post and the Daily Camera, the costs to communities of doing that and then enforcement are huge. And to me, it's just not a good expenditure of public resources, money or time and effort to get involved here when you can literally go a block away and they're already set up. They're a bigger community. They've already made the decision that they'd like that tax money. So I'm sort of with everybody else here. I don't think at this current time I can be persuaded that we need to bring it back up.
Do you know what the potential costs would be to not to open a shop, to have the system regulated within this community?
I don't know the cost, but I know they're significant.
Actually, I would at least like to revisit this in the fact that a lot has changed since 2010. And as I understand, Louisville hasn't had any problems, whether it's with safety or law enforcement, but I'd rather see this in data, at least so that we can at least revisit it. I mean, it's a whole different ballgame, a whole different animal now, because it's not medical marijuana, it's recreational marijuana, and voters passed it. And we haven't visited this
Yes, we
since
did.
then.
Yeah, we did. We voted to not have recreational when that became
What was that date? When was
it was
that?
after the vote, after the...
Right after the referendum.
Yeah. In fact, we had we're getting close to a deadline of having to deal with it as an entity, if I remember correctly.
And I don't see anything.
We did vote on it after it was passed in the state.
Well, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with getting data to at least find out how other communities are doing with this and what is the regulations that they're doing, that they're passing, and how it's operating. At least it's something that we can visit instead of just closing the door because, well, we're uncomfortable, or that it's something that seems like a lot of red tape or more difficult because it's something we've never dealt with.
Trustee Gokars? I guess my take on this would be if there was, the majority of the board felt like this is worth reopening, then I think we should do it. But if you have 5 or 6 trustees against it, I don't want to waste your time and your resources to do this since we've already voted for it.
If I may, I read the bill recently that specifically banned them in Superior, and I don't know if you, Mr. Mayor, were the one who specifically signed it back in 2010. But I remember reading at the bottom that it said that we did not want to allow dispensaries of any kind for the public safety of our children. But in fact, we have 2 liquor stores right next to high-traffic children areas. Right over there, the ice skating rink and Chicago Pizza. A lot of kids go around there, and a lot of kids will sit in the car as their parents go inside and get a bottle of wine or some whiskey. Or there's even a liquor store right next to the new pizza place next to the Safeway. A lot of kids, specifically high schoolers, will hang out there, and we don't see an increase in the alcohol consumption rate because even though they're right next to where kids will go to hang out. So where, if I may, and if I'm not being rude, may I ask, is the exact logic in banning them for the safety if we have alcohol, which, as we know, due to empirical scientific data, is more destructive to the body and to the health of society than cannabis is?
So we probably can't finish this topic tonight, and so I guess I'm with Trustee Gurgurus. So, I don't think that there's anybody else on the board that's interested in hearing about this. So, once again, not trying to be rude, but I think that's the perspective of the board at the moment. So, things may change. So,
I do appreciate you coming forward.
Yes, so
appreciate your logic.
Yeah, so that was going to be my comment, is that while we might agree to disagree on this topic, I really appreciate you coming forward and actually explaining this at a town board meeting. That's awesome. You should be congratulated for that.
Thank you.
And for very respectful the way that you did. I think it was great that you were able to, share your argument and your point of view in a wonderful way. If this is your dad, you should be very proud of your son.
Compelling.
I know what that means.
You are extremely articulate
Yes.
for your age.
He also started the first chapter in the country out of a high school for students for a sensible drug policy. It's only at 150 or so universities and Monarch High School.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comment? Okay, seeing none, that brings us to presentations. We don't have any this evening. That brings us to the consent agenda, and remaining on the consent agenda is the approval of the minutes of the October 18, 2013, and February 10th, 2014 Board of Trustees meeting, acceptance of the meeting notes of the Open Space Advisory Committee, adoption of a resolution approving the Seventh Amendment to the Fourth Interim Agreement with the Municipal Subdistrict Northern Colorado Water Conservancy District Windy Gap Firming Project for the Superior Metropolitan District Number 1, adoption of a resolution for an agreement with Earth Green Fence Products, Inc. for fence painting, stain, and repair services, adoption of a resolution for Superior Metropolitan District Number 1 canceling the May 6, 2014 election, and adoption of a resolution for Superior, goodness gracious, adoption of a resolution for the Superior McCaslin Interchange Metropolitan District canceling the May 6, 2014 election. With that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Trustee Skumat, second by Trustee Strelli. Any discussion? Phyllis?
Sorelli?
Yes.
Gregoris?
Yes.
Muckle?
Yes.
Pennington?
Yes.
Skumat?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to item, what was item number G, adoption of resolution approving the amendment to the town manager's agreement. This is Trustee Williams.
Yes. So I pulled this just, I felt that there needs to be transparency on a topic like this, and kind of burying it into the consent agenda just, adds fuel that is not needed, and so I just wanted to pull it. And I just wanted to also note that the town manager's raise is 3.7%, and he is also getting a 5,000 bonus, and that is in the packet here. So, and if there anyone else, I also brought it up for any other discussion, but basically just for transparency, so that all knows what's going on.
I guess my only comments are that I'm thankful that the town manager has worked on behalf of the residents of the town of Superior. Has done a fantastic job, and I'm very appreciative of his work here for the citizens of the town of Superior. And I think that the dollar figures that we're talking about are very well deserved.
Yeah, well deserved, that's what I was going to say, too. So.
Trustee Pennington.
Well, it's no secret to anybody, especially those in the room here, that we went through sort of contentious Superior Town Center planning process and approval process. And sorry, how'd that get turned off? You all heard me, contentious Superior Town Center development process. And so I've heard from a couple of people this week about the proposed raise for the town manager, and I'll say here what I said to them, that fact it's contentious, the fact we choose to disagree, and it can get a little bit nasty at times.
Testy.
Testy.
Testy is better than nasty.
Testy and nasty. Let's be real here. Doesn't mean the town manager doesn't deserve something reasonable for his work for the year. So I fully support, as Deb said, 3.7% and a 5K bonus. Understand that we've gone through a pretty extensive evaluation with Matt, and a lot of issues have been addressed, et cetera, but I do believe that it will be a good 2015 and support this.
2014.
14.
Let's get through this.
I really have trouble putting the date on the check yet, and we're 2 months, almost 3 into this.
Any other comments? Trustee Williams?
And the only comment I was going to make after everyone else did was that this is 3.7% raise and a $5,000 bonus is on par with the average of what, private companies are giving at this point today. Not saying 2008, 2009, 2010, but 2014, this is the going rate. So I just wanted to make that point, and it was an extremely busy year, beyond busy. And I'm not saying it was perfect by any means, and it wasn't. And I had issues, we all had issues, but a part of this reward is for also someone's time and effort. So that's for whatever it's worth.
Any public comment regarding this particular issue?
Is there an adoption? Do we read something, or do we have to vote because there's money involved?
Yes.
Mayor, I'd just like to say
yes,
that,
please.
I just want to thank the board for their comments, and there were times last year I thought the meetings were going to kill me, but I still enjoy working for the town and for the board, so.
Thank you.
And we're over the hump.
Yes.
With that, somebody like to?
I don't have it in front, but make a motion to adopt.
Trustee Sorelli is
I'm not finding it.
Okay, I can get there.
Who can get there first?
Okay.
I think just one dead.
She can.
And, all right, I'm there.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion for the Town of Superior Resolution Number R-16, Series 2014. A resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Superior approving a third amendment to the employment agreement with Matthew G. Magley.
Okay, motion by Trustee Williams, is there a second?
Here.
Trustee Gurgouris, discussion?
What does the G stand for? Is that
Greer.
okay? Career.
Phyllis?
Gregor's,
Yes.
Muckle,
Yes.
Pennington,
Yes.
Skamata,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Sorelli.
Yes.
Okay, very good, thank you. That brings us to what was H, adoption of a resolution approving a settlement and release agreement with Scott Randall. Trustee Williams?
So I also pulled this for transparency reasons. I think that most people don't know that there was even a lawsuit brought against us by the former town manager. Also wanted to comment, or at least I'd like to know, I understand that there was a settlement. Settlement basically means we didn't settle. It means that we won the lawsuit, and that we were recouped some of the costs. But what I'd like to know is how much were we not recouped? How much in legal fees did we rack up?
Sure, I don't have that number now, but I could certainly find out for you.
So is that number somewhere above 10,000 or below 10,000?
Oh, it's above.
It's above 10,000?
Yes.
Okay.
It's been going on for almost, well, over 2 years, about 2.5 years.
That's pretty significant for something that should have been cut and dry. So, I'm, just for transparency reasons, I just wanted to bring that up.
Okay.
I'm grateful that you fought it to the end and you won, honestly, because it was unfair from the very, very beginning, and it seemed to me, personally, it seemed vindictive on his part, so I'm glad he didn't win.
Yeah, it's one of these things where I think that it protects the town's long-term interests when we are clear that we're going to do what we think is right, even if it's a little expensive. So I fully appreciate your work.
Yeah.
Trustee Pennington.
I agree with all of the speakers thus far. I believe when you're charged with this, you have to defend yourself and you have to stand up for what's right. I, too, am concerned about the legal fee aspect because we get certain costs we're fighting for, but what I'm not clear on is why we have never gone after the recouping of legal fees.
We got 2 separate awards of attorney fees.
Okay.
So far, and really, in a case like this, and when there's no contractual obligation to pay attorney fees, the court only awards attorney fees if there's something that was groundless or frivolous. We've proved twice.
Which this was not.
We proved twice in particular instances in the case. For example, when Scott Randall refused to show up for his deposition twice, we did get attorney fees in that case because what he did was groundless and frivolous. However, in your basic civil case, it's very difficult to get attorney fees when something like that doesn't happen. So we did recover attorney fees twice, and I will certainly get you a total accounting of how much we recovered, how much we spent. And then we are also, as I said, we are also asking the court to award us $11,000 in costs right now. Some of that is discretionary with the judge, so we will see what the judge determines to award, but that will be pending. The settlement we're talking about tonight, and just for the record, Scott Randall is paying us $3,000 to settle our only remaining counterclaim against him. Again, assuming the board approves this settlement agreement. And then we have submitted a bill of costs to the court for $11,000 and change. I don't have the exact number, but I can find that out.
When all is said and done and the court rules on that, would you let us know the end result of the hearing?
Yes, of course. And then I'll provide a whole accounting of how much was spent and how much was recouped and all of that.
Well, part of my confusion over the legal fees aspect is I thought the whole case was groundless and frivolous. And obviously, in your best judgment, that would be...
Yeah,
this is not worth pursuing for legal fees.
Groundless and frivolous in Colorado is on your basic civil case like this is very difficult to prove. We asked for it, and again, we got it twice, but overall, the judge, on the motion for summary judgment that we won, we argued that we should have won from the get-go and it was groundless and frivolous. The judge said, no, there was at least a valid enough claim to move forward. You don't get attorney fees on that. So we did ask for them, we didn't get them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Public comment regarding this issue?
George Kuffner, I did know about the case, I did follow the case. They did give me the answers where I want to know, and I want to thank you that we got it settled in the way it went.
Thank you, George.
Thank you. With that, motion?
I'd like to make a motion for the Town of Superior Resolution Number R-17, Series 2014, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Superior approving a settlement and release agreement with Scott Randall.
Motion by trustee Williams, second by trustee Gurgouris. Discussion. I guess, Phyllis, not really spending any money, but...
We're not spending money, do we?
I don't care.
We're accepting money, so if you just want to...
All in favor?
All in favor.
Unanimous, thank you very much. That brings us to 8, adoption of a resolution approving an agreement with Vision Internet for an upgrade of the town website. Mr. Magley?
Thank you, Mayor. Town's current website, its current configuration with content management system operating software was done in the early 2000s. In between now and then, when it was first implemented, we've had some updates to the look of the site, but not the software that operates the site. We feel like with social media being the way it is these days, there's a number of opportunities to improve our website, and so we budgeted in the 2014 budget funds to overhaul the website completely, including new content management software as well as a new look. My staff has put out an RFP asking for proposals from companies that specialize in government websites. We thought it was important to select a company that specializes in government websites. We've selected a vendor that we're recommending the board approve tonight, an agreement with them. And Lisa Ritchie of my staff has put together a presentation for the board. She'll give that, and then we'll open up for questions and comments from the board.
Great. Good evening. So as Mr. Magley kind of explained, we are here tonight to talk to you about an upgrade to our town's website. Staff developed the following goals for updating the website. To include an improved content management system, which is essentially the software and how the content is organized and how staff interfaces with the website behind the scenes. To include a refreshed and updated design. We wanted to look at the option of off-site hosting. Currently, our website is hosted on a server here in Town Hall. That just brings up some issues with security and budgeting. We wanted to look at that, as well as mobile device compatibility. As you know, our current website now is not mobile device friendly. And then some integration efficiencies for staff. What we're hoping our outcomes are to offer improved customer service and to craft a unique, credible, and quality web experience that has our community image in mind. And here we are with our current website. Not that there's, not that this is awful. Obviously, there's a lot of communities that maybe think that this is, adequate. However, we feel like it's time to look at an upgrade. Some of the issues we have are cluttered navigation on the left as far as how you find information. Kind of what we call information overload in the center. Just any announcement gets thrown up there. There's not necessarily an order to it. Our search function is a little bit difficult. It doesn't necessarily retrieve information accurately. Things such as a static calendar, we can, what we'd like to do is look at ways to have folks be able to integrate with their own Outlook calendars or Apple calendars with our events. As Mr. Magley mentioned, we put out an RFP and we received 12 responses back. Staff heavily evaluated those. 6 of those vendors came in for interviews and for demos. We had the opportunity to meet personally with 6 of those. We then selected 3 for which we called references on. And throughout that process, ultimately Vision Internet is who staff is recommending. They do specialize in government websites. They offer personalized navigation and design as opposed to a template approach. Many offer just a template where we have to put our things in. In addition, they will provide hosting, security, support, maintenance, updates, things like that. Again, as Mr. Magley mentioned, we have $50,000 included in the budget. Vision Internet, we have a contract for $37,515 should you approve it. On top of that, there will be annual costs associated with the hosting of $7,800. However, staff has identified approximately $4,700 in duplicate technologies that we can eliminate through the use of Vision Internet services. And if we pay that $7,800 for 4 consecutive years, they do include a website redesign at no cost. And again, we've kind of determined what we'd like a development process to be. Vision Internet will play heavily in that, and that they have extensive research into how residents and constituents interface with government websites. They have good understanding of functionality. And then on a staff level, we desire to have community representation as well as representation from all staff departments. Just briefly, I have some screenshots as far as some of Vision Internet's work, and these are just reflective of the different community images that each of those websites needed to reflect, as well as different navigation techniques. And then I also have a representative here from Vision Internet who can go into depth on some of their websites in addition if you'd like. One of the things that staff was talking about is one of our goals is mobile device compatibility. And Vision Internet uses a technology called responsive design. So in place of having a mobile website and a full website, the website actually interprets the resolution of the device that is accessing that website and can adjust automatically. So as you can kind of see the photos there, each of those is the same website, but it'll adjust the graphics and the orientation of the website based on whatever device. As well, it's compatible with all major iPad, iPhone, Androids, all of that. Just as an FYI, every time we do an update to our website, it takes an additional staff effort to update it to Facebook, to craft an e-blast and send that out, to write to the CAC. All of those are separate functions. With this new website, they offer a functionality that they call one-click social media, which essentially, as staff creates an update that goes to the website, they check a box, and all of those updates get pushed out simultaneously, which is good for a staff level of time as well as consistency of message and timing of communication. In addition, users of the website can customize how they want to receive information. So they can decide, I want to be notified for Parks and Rec only, for board meeting agendas, and then all of the different avenues that they want to receive notifications. Essentially, Vision Internet software offers at least 25 functions that are not currently supported on our website. And what prompted this whole discussion on a staff level is the software that we currently use is no longer supported by the company. And so essentially, in order to do any upgrades at all, we have to do something with our website software. All right, I can take questions as well. This is Susan Nguyen from Vision Internet.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for having me. And she has some examples pulled up for you.
Great. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your company and then whatever you have for
Sure.
Happy
to be here. Thanks for having me. I flew in this afternoon. It was nice and sunny, and then it turned cold. Somebody turn the heat back up, please. First of all, we're really excited about the opportunity to partner with Superior. We've done a lot of work with other clients here in the Colorado area. You saw the Littleton screenshot. They actually just won an award last week, an international award, for some of the digital work that we've been doing with them online, so that's really exciting. We'd love to be able to do that for Superior as well. Vision is a government-focused agency, as you heard from Lisa. We have more than 500 clients across the U.S. and into Canada, and that's important to you because we understand that you don't function like the private sector. The level of transparency that's expected from you, the way in which your constituents expect to find things online in a way that they instinctually will look for, rather than how we as government decide it should be organized, are really important ideas, and we've developed a lot of best practices over time, and we continue to innovate and improve. Lisa mentioned there's more than 25 functions that'll be available. I know that probably since she's done her PowerPoint, we've released some additional tools as well, so that's just kind of an evolution that your residents will have. I wanted to show you a couple of examples of design. The one thing I will say is anytime you get a group of people together, everyone has a different opinion about what they like in terms of design, and that's really natural. At Vision, our goal when we tackle your project, should you approve this, is to create the most accurate sense of place for Superior. If I never came here, if I never came in person, would I know something about the community, the residents? Is it family-oriented? Is it high-tech? What are they doing in terms of economic development? Those kinds of things. So when I show you some examples, you may love them, you may not love them, but just know that these are some things that we've created recently, and you can visit them on your various devices and kind of see how they respond. This is for the city of Reno, Nevada. This has been a longtime client. This is actually our third redesign with them. You'll notice that on this particular screen, it's very search-centric. They're trying to do two things here, still offer people across the top a menu where they can find things if that's more common or instinctual for them, or if they just really want to go ahead and search in the main bar, they can do that. They have some other cool tools, shortcut buttons. The other thing is Vision feels like your website should be a living and breathing entity. So over the course of time, maybe today, webcams are really important in Superior, but a year from now, what's more important is transparency, and you'd like to change that out. Your staff will actually have full control over all of those things and be able to do that on their own. In this particular case, they're using some citizen photos on their website. So these are images that were contributed by citizens, which is a really cool idea and a way to engage your residents if you're interested. The other thing is if you visit any of these on your devices is one way to see the difference. It's also, if you change the resolution of the screen itself, you'll see that buttons and other items start to reorganize and resize, again, just based on the size of the screen. This is for the city of Provo, Utah. You guys have a small resolution projector, so I had to make it a little smaller. I apologize if you can't read those across the top. You'll notice it doesn't look anything like a municipal website, frankly. It's intentional. They were named a Google Fiber City 2 years ago, and so they are doing a lot in the area of technology. They're working very hard in terms of economic development to attract some high-tech companies, and it was important to that community, Provo, to look private sector online. So again, if you get a chance, visit that. Shakopee, I've never been there. It's probably very cold there as well. The reason I wanted to show you this site is it was recently launched as well. It looks a little bit more traditional in terms of what you would see for a government website, but one of the things that was really important to them is that they have a lot of flexibility in what they do. So you'll notice that On each of the major landing pages, they're fully in charge of the images, the navigation, whether there is a navigation, whether they choose to present calendars and those kinds of things. I do encourage you, if you get a little bit of time, to poke around either on these individual sites or on visioninternet.com with some of our other examples. And this is a little bit of an older site, and I do like to show it to people. Again, unfortunately, in a community I haven't had a chance to visit, Nixa, Missouri, but it's a real illustration of our approach to your project. So we don't know enough about you at this moment to tell you what your new site should look like. We haven't sat down and talked with you and talked with your residents or your staff. But in the city of Nixa, when we started working with them, you'll notice there's no calendar events, there's no news items, there's nothing on that front part of their website. And this is a little bit older, so it's not a responsive website. But the reason it looks this way is not because they wanted something super clean and simple. The reason it looks this way is because they're a small community, and they don't have very much going on. And they came to us and said, please don't make us put news and events on our homepage. There's going to be these big, huge, gaping holes. What are some other things that we could do in terms of design so we still look modern and professional and community-oriented without highlighting that fact? So when you visit some of our websites, you may see, again, things you like or don't like. Just know that they're done in a really intentional way, strategically, with that community's goals and objectives in mind. So, can I answer any questions for any of you?
Great, thanks. Questions from the board? Trustee Gregorus and Trustee
Well,
Williams?
mine's actually kind of a silly question, but what warm weather climate did you come from?
Well, no, I didn't come from, I live in Portland, Oregon, but I was in Madrid yesterday. So I took the long way here to make sure and get here for this meeting.
Wow, well, we appreciate
It
that.
was really gorgeous in Madrid.
And are you doing their website too now?
No, but I'd like to, because I could maybe talk the company into sending me back there for a council meeting.
Trustee Williams?
So I just wanted to say that we've been limping along for a long time, and staff has done a great job up to this point, but I think it's time to take the next leap into the professional look. And it needs to be interactive. And I think that's the operative word for me, is interactive, that we do not have now. And based on your experience and what you've presented, I completely feel at total ease with you guys just running with it. I'm sure you'll come up with something that we'll all love, far beyond what we've already been experiencing over the last, I don't know how many years. And I'm excited that we're taking it, to another level, and that it will be professionally designed. So I think this is a great thing, and I'm going to vote for it, and then I'm ready to vote.
So I have I guess just a quick question. You said that it's important for you to understand the community so that you can develop the appropriate web page for the community. How does that look?
We do a series of things. So we do an extensive consulting process that includes, first of all, looking at your existing website. I know you guys are ready to move on, but there are things that are working there. And so we do some heat mapping, first of all, to understand what are people using on the website. We look at statistics if you have them available. Our heat mapping and user session recording process is not just about where they click, right? Because if they can't find it, they're not clicking. So we record, for example, where people move their mouse on your website, because it correlates to their eye movement, which tells us they're looking for something, and if they're not clicking, they're not finding. So we take all of that data. As I mentioned, any analytics you might have. We do some surveying of the staff. Here at Town Hall, does the phone ring for the same thing over and over and over again? And what is that thing? And would citizens be better served by finding that online? So all of that information. If you'd like us to engage with your residents as well to get some feedback about what they wish for. And then we take all of that information and we allow that to drive the structure of the site, because functionality is as important as visual impact, right? We hope to admire the site when we come look at it, but as a resident or as a potential visitor, we come to find information. So vision's a process, and I think a big part of why you all selected us is because we lead with that first. So all of those things together, collaboratively, will help us make a recommendation about the wireframes, your site map, and navigation.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Skumats.
So I think you did both of you did a great job of presenting on this topic, and it's not something that I usually get that worked up about, but I think that you both gave me a great deal of confidence in what you're doing. I really like the fact that you showed these examples of how you really take into account the needs of individual communities. And I was struck by things like the one where you had a search right in the middle, or you can do the menus, because sometimes I'm frustrated, I can't, they don't think the way I do, and the menus don't work the way I do, and it just makes me infuriated. And to be able to just put in, like recycling or whatever, and have it, oh my God, find it for me wherever it's lying. It's a really nice thing, and it's clear you have a lot of experience with a variety of different types and sizes and needs of communities, and you really carried that message across. Thank you very much.
Trustee Gregorius?
I really like your approach and how your due diligence, basically, to come and find out what Superior is really all about before you build us a website. I think that's perfect.
Thank you.
Trustee Pennington?
To Lisa and Matt, I like the inclusion of residents. I hope it's more than one. I'm not sure how you're going to pick this person, but I like the inclusion of residents for the reasons other people have put forth in terms of getting the broadest possible input. Something somebody else said triggered this thought in my mind. It's been a long time since we've received any data. For example, what percentage of announcements of when you send out that the Sentinel's available, how many of those are opened up? And likewise, what number of folks are signed up for the CAC or the e-blast lists and all that kind of stuff. And I'd really like to benchmark some of this stuff. So we have baseline info, and I'm not sure when we have a fully new system, if we will lose any of that data. But I want it in and of itself for now, just as monitoring. Or, do we have half the community?
Captures all that data all the time, so
Right.
Thank you.
Sorry, every e-blast that goes out, it captures all that data.
Right.
We archive them all, we have open rates for all, we have click-through rates for everything sent out, so we have that, and as we go forward, we can look back.
Yeah, so I guess I'm asking for, in your own time frame, it's not essential immediately, let's get a report on that and see, are we reaching, I knew that every address got that mail newsletter. Now, whether or not they threw it in the trash or read it, but at least we knew it. So now I'm not even sure what percentage open it up. Is it a respectable percentage, or do we need to do more work, that kind of stuff? So if we can get some baseline numbers, that'd be good.
And also, what percentage of all of the residents actually are receiving at all?
E-blast?
Well, whether it's e-blast, the newsletter, some are just not even signed up, and
We can get you numbers. One thing that I caution you on that is there may be multiple households. A husband and a wife might have an email, so, we can't necessarily determine the number of households. But we can give you total number of it.
So when they sign up, do you ask them to put an address in that sign-up document?
I don't know, that's a good question.
We just look for their email address.
Yeah, so in the future, if we do some sort of unique identifying information, phone number, or a house address, I guess, is household.
Well, each of the, in the future, thinking forward, each of your residents will be able to log on and set up their own kind of login to the website where they can manage their subscriptions to the various newsletters that they're interested in. They can manage if they've chosen to reserve a park or barbecue area through the website. They can manage calendar events that they've RSVP'd to, or if they've decided that they want to pre-register to attend and speak during open agenda areas, those kinds of things. So they'll be able to manage all of those on their own, and you can identify them individually. You can determine whether you require them to provide, identifying information or not. Do know that the more that you require, the less likely people are to participate.
Justice Gomez.
And I was just you made me think of something when you said something about making up reservations on parks. And we should send out reminders to people like they do for my haircut and stuff like that, so.
That is automated in the system.
Trustee Williams?
And again, interactive is the key for me here, but I just want to also point out, or just make sure that we find or figure out how to collect the data as to how many are subscribed. In other words, are we missing a section of the population that is not interested, we haven't got to, don't have a computer, whatever those reasons are, that never get a newsletter or never get an e-blast because they are not signed up. So I just wonder how we can measure that, how we can get that data.
Okay. Anything else? From my perspective, and I guess I'm saying this out loud, but if you can make Reno, Nevada look good, I feel pretty optimistic about the town of Superior.
You know, it's really, I want to say
Reno's not a bad little town.
about Reno, they are one of the most technology-forward, it's staff-driven, one of the most technology-forward clients that we work with. And they have really innovative things. They have, well, maybe it's because they have money, but they have a live chat feature for citizens to live chat online. They just launched a contest that's really exciting, asking for videos about how residents are using the newly launched website, and they get really good participation. So whatever we may think of them individually, just know that they're doing a lot of things right.
All right, we should take their lead.
I'm going to ask, Lisa's been dogging this issue for a couple of years now about live access to town meetings. So if we can, Lisa, I'll let you talk to it, but if, this Lisa, yeah.
Participation.
Yeah.
That you're talking about.
I am, and it was, what they did in Lafayette or Longmont was phone.
We're building Longmont's new site
better.
right now, just so you guys know, and it looks fantastic. So you have...
You're building Longmont, really?
Yeah, and we're building Louisville's as well.
And I like what they've been doing in Longmont, so any lessons that we can, any ways that we can do something for an interactive board meeting on the website would be great.
Yeah, we have a really cool live polling tool that's double-edged sword, but you can conduct live polls online.
Perfect.
In the middle of a meeting if there's a particular issue that you're looking for some citizen input on.
We've been talking about it for years. It's, wow, that would be...
It'd be nice.
It is double-edged, I know.
Careful what you ask for.
It'll be a
We're
careful
going with
selective
eyes
meeting.
wide open about that one, so.
All right, any other questions?
We've opened a great door, and I would like to make a motion.
Well, any public comment?
Make a motion. Everybody wants to make a motion here, so.
Okay, no public comment,
All right.
so then, Trustee Gurus.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve Town of Superior Resolution Number R-18, Series 2014, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Superior approving an agreement with Vision Internet for the upgrade of the town website.
Motion by Trustee Gurus, second by Trustee Williams. Any further discussion? Phyllis?
Gers,
Yes.
Muckle,
Yes.
Pennington. Yes. Kumar,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Chiarelli.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation and looking forward to it. Actually, can you just give me a timeline of what the rollout looks like? Just so we aren't asking you next meeting when it's going to be.
Staff is anticipating a timeline of 4 to 6 months to go through the complete process. We'll update you along the way as we get closer to a launch date.
Very good, thank you.
Dashboard, Everyone's got a dashboard. We have to have a dashboard.
Yeah, we do. Good work.
Good work, and identify.
Thank you so much.
Anything else to come before the board this evening? Seeing none, meeting adjourned, thank you.
I didn't make 8:30.